Hi guys, I'm here to bring you your This Week at Access video for December 8th to December 12th. So this week we are going to be starting a new strength cycle, and some of you may actually be familiar with this strength cycle because we've done it a few times in the past, but I'm going to try to explain it the best I can in this video, and your coaches will also be explaining it to you in class because this one does require a little bit of math to work with. So we are doing the 5-3-1 cycle. So for those of you that remember, the way this cycle works is all of our percentages that we have listed are based off of 90% of our 1 rep max. So for example, this week for our lifts, we will be doing 3 sets of 5 reps, and we will have our first set is at 60%, our second set is at 70%, and our third set is at 80%. However, what you need to keep in mind is that the percentages are 60% of 90% of your 1 rep max. So a little example here would be if your 1 rep max for back squat is 100 pounds, 90% of that is 90 pounds. So then you would be using that 90 pounds and calculating 60% of 90 pounds, 70% of 90 pounds, and 80% of 90 pounds. So hopefully some of you have done this in the past and you're familiar with the math. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to use the setup in SugarWOD where it tells you your percentages. You are going to have to do some math. So I really do recommend that you are logging things in SugarWOD. And if you do not have a 1 rep max, that is okay. What I recommend is start out lighter than you think you need to do on all of your lifts, day 1, week 1, what have you, and slowly build so that you have room to build throughout this cycle. This is going to end up being an 8-week cycle. Sorry, Scout is right here. I don't know if you can hear her. This is going to end up being an 8-week cycle, so you need to have room to build. If you start out at a max effort, you're not going to have room to develop and build and wait. My recommendation, so start light. And, each set, as long as your technique is good, go a little bit heavier each set. And then the next week for your back squat and your deadlift, so your leg movements, maybe add 10 pounds to what you did the week before. So say week 1, you back squat 55 pounds for set 1, 65 pounds for set 2, and 75 pounds for set 3. That's great. If your technique was solid, the week after, so week 2, you can do 65 pounds, 75 pounds, 85 pounds. And then on the other hand, for your bench press, so your upper body movement, I would add 5 pounds. And then you'll kind of get a feel for where you're at. But I hope I explained that. The biggest thing to remember if you have a 1 rep max is all of your percentages are based off of 90% of your 1 rep max. So just be prepared to do a little bit of math. If you need your coach to help you out, ask them for help instead of guessing. But anyway, let's get into our workouts for the week. Oh, I left out a huge thing. Another thing with this cycle, so weeks, it is broken into 4-week blocks. So we're going to do 2 4-week blocks. In weeks 1, 2, and 3, you are actually doing an AMRAP, so as many reps as possible on the final set. So for example, this week is 3 sets of 5 reps. On set 1, you'll do 5 reps. On set 2, you'll do 5 reps. And then on set 3, you're doing at least 5 reps, but you are doing as many reps as you possibly can at that weight. So just keep that in mind. You may note it should be in SugarWOD, do as many reps as possible on the final set, but that's also an important part of this cycle. I can't believe I almost forgot. Now let's get into our workouts. So on Monday, we're going to back squat 3 sets of 5 reps, starting at 60% of 90% of our 1 rep max and building up to 80% of 90% of our 1 rep max. Then we're going to have 5 rounds for time of 25-foot single arm overhead walking lunges. I say in here with our left arm because most of us, that is our weak arm, but start with your weak side. And then 10 uneven push-ups. Again, I have it in here as your left arm, but start with your weak side. So these are not alternating uneven push-ups. You have one hand on the dumbbell, the other hand on the ground for all 10 reps. And then another 25-foot single arm overhead walking lunge, this time with your strong arm. So for most of us, our right arm. And then another 10 uneven push-ups with our strong arm. So again, most of us, this is our right arm. And there will be an 18-minute time cap on this one. Scaling options, you can scale the weight as needed for the single arm overhead walking lunges. If you're having a hard time with the single arm overhead portion, but you can do walking lunges with the weight in the goblet position, you can go ahead and do that, or you can do unweighted walking lunges as needed. And you can scale the uneven push-ups to strict push-ups or box push-ups. Remember, the whole point of adding the dumbbell and making them uneven is to increase the range of motion on one side. So if you cannot get your chest and nose to the floor with the dumbbell, don't cut yourself short and not have the chest and nose touch the floor, so you're not doing the full rep and getting the full benefit out of it. I'd rather you scale down to strict push-ups where you can get your chest and nose to the floor, or box push-ups where you can get your chest to the box, so you're getting the most out of the movement. On Tuesday, we're going to have a long EMOM. So this is going to be an EMOM 25. Minute 1 will be 15 American kettlebell swings. Minute 2 will be 10 toes to bar. Minute 3 will be 10 burpees. Minute 4 will be 10 sumo deadlift high pulls. And minute 5 will be 30 double unders. So you can scale the weight and or the number of reps as needed. Remember, it should be roughly 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, but maybe one movement you're going to have 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest. But if you're getting less than 20 seconds of rest, go ahead and scale somehow. We can scale our toes to bar to knees to elbows, knees to chest, or toes to rig. And we can scale our double unders to 60 single unders, or, if you're having a hard time with your jump ropes, working on your jump roping for about 30 seconds. Then on Wednesday, bench press, same percentages and reps as Monday with the back squat. And then we're going to have an AMRAP 17 of 12 gorilla rows, 12 single arm kettlebell strict press, so 6 on the left, 6 on the right, 6 strict pull-ups, and 6 ring dips. For our scaling options, you can scale the weight of the kettlebells as needed. And we can scale our strict pull-ups to banded pull-ups or plank rows. So there won't be ring rows because there are ring dips, so we need the space on the rings for the ring dips. So we can scale those ring dips to banded ring dips or bench dips. Then on Thursday, we're going to be doing a clean EMOM 10. So every minute on the minute, you're going to perform 2 cleans. Now, a little, vocabulary lesson. I can't think of a better word for it right now. These are cleans, so that means, yes, we are catching in the squat position, unless it says power clean or power snatch, or it is specified in some other way, you're catching in that squat if you are able to. So use about the first 5, maybe 6 rounds of the EMOM as your warm-up and building time, and then the last, 4 or 5 rounds or so, that's when you're going to start building in weight, going a little bit heavier towards that top set, if your technique is correct. If you notice that your technique maybe didn't feel right, don't push the weight just for the sake of pushing the weight. Make sure your technique is correct. We are going to be seeing Olympic lifts a little bit more frequently for the next 8 weeks as we lead into our super total. So I want you guys to be honing in that technique so that as your mechanics become more consistent, then you can start increasing that intensity. So after our clean EMOM, we're going to have 5 rounds for time of 10 wall ball shots, 10 plank pull throughs, and 10 box jumps. So you can scale the weight of the wall ball or the kettlebell for the plank pull throughs, or you can scale the height of the boxes as needed for the box jumps. And you can further scale the box jumps to a jump to a target. And then on Friday, we're going to have our deadlift. Again, same percentages and rep scheme as our back squat and bench press. And we're going to have an EMOM 15. Minute 1 will be 20 alternating dumbbell snatches. Minute 2 will be 20 sit-ups. And then minute 3 will be 10 inverted ring rows. So what makes these a little bit different than regular ring rows is if you are able to, you can put a plate on the ground and put your feet on the plate so that you have a more aggressive angle. Maybe you're going to stack a couple of plates. Maybe you're going to put a box there for your feet to go on, but you're pretty much making that angle for the ring rows more aggressive. So scaling for this one, we can scale the weight and reps as needed, and you can scale the inverted ring rows to ring rows, so without having your feet elevated on some surface. There's no RX height for the inverted portion, so just try them out. I think everyone can benefit from ring rows, even if you can do, strict pull-ups for days. Everyone can benefit from ring rows. So that is all I have for your workouts for this week. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to accessstrengthtraining@gmail.com, and I hope you have a great week of training.